All right, guys. On the back of your graph paper, we're going to represent your data and your overall summary. And another way, making our graph was a way to visually see how majority of people responded in hopes that that visual really helped you able to sell your question and that people agreed with whatever it is you were hoping the outcome. Like for me, I wanted people to be likely to say they would buy my toothbrush, that kind of thing. So today we're going to talk about another way to represent your data, especially like, for example, on the radio or in a commercial where there might not be visuals, but more statements like that 4 out of 5 dentists said they agree you should chew Trident gum, that kind of thing, okay? And we're going to be using mean, median, and mode to do that, which is why we use the Likert scale. To find mean, median, and mode, we're obviously going to be doing some math using those numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. These are things that you have done previously in previous grades, so hopefully this is just a review and you can use your data to create it. So you've got your iPad and your headphones out like number 1 says up there. You are going to get your bar graph out that you created yesterday or finished today in class, and you will do this on the back of it. You're going to watch this video once through and just listen so you can best understand what it is I'm sharing with you. And then you're going to find your own mean, median, and mode. You'll see using my example that I'm going to put up here as I talk that you need to be sure to include all of your work and label your work for all 3 of them so that when I look, I can see where your mean, median, and mode are. You're going to make it very neat, and then last we'll write a justification statement, and we'll do that together on mine as well. So just as a reminder, this is sort of what my data looked like for my question. How likely are you to buy a toothbrush with toothpaste inside of it for $15.99? Those are my results again. I've already graphed what they look like. Now we're going to talk about mean, median, and mode. These are all examples of averages. So if you've ever heard the statement, on average, 4 out of 5 dentists said they would suggest chewing Trident gum. That's an average, okay? And mean, median, mode are all examples of them. So I've already done my work here, but I'm going to walk through it with you. So if you could just do your best to follow along with me here. I'm going to hopefully change that so you can see it even better. And I will kind of zoom in and out as we work. So first, I'm explaining this as finding the average results. So we can make that statement like, on average, 4 out of 5 people said they would buy my toothbrush, that type of thing. We're going to start with mean. If you'll remember, mean means to add all the numbers together. So all of your responses, you're going to add those numbers up, and then you're going to divide them by the total number of people that you surveyed. So here's how you get those numbers first, okay? So I have that 5 people were very unlikely to buy it. So 5 ones, 1 was my response. Like if you said very unlikely, that was a 1 on my bar graph. So 5 ones would be worth 5. Okay, 0 people said unlikely. Unlikely was that 2 on a scale of 1 to 5. So 0 times 2 is 0. 2 people were not sure, and not sure was a 3. It was right in the middle of my scale, so 2 3s is 6. 16 people said they would likely buy it. Likely was a 4 out of 1 to 5, so 16 times 4 is 64. And then very likely was a 5, and 7 people said that, so I'm going to multiply those to get 35. Now my job is to add all those numbers up together, so 5, 6, 64, 35 made 110, and then I have to divide by how many people surveyed. I surveyed 30 right on the dot. I didn't go over, though you could. I divided by that many people, and I got 3.6 as an average answer. An average answer from 1 to 5 was 3.6 repeating. Now, there wasn't an option of 3.6. It was 1 to 5. So now I have to round that to the nearest whole number. You'll likely end up with the decimal. That's okay. Just round it to the nearest whole number. So 3.6 repeating would be rounded up to a 4. So looking at the mean, I would say the average answer was a 4, that they would likely buy my toothbrush with toothpaste inside of it, which happens to match my bar graph as well. So mean is just one form of an average. My median and mode are 2 more that we're going to find, and we may actually end up with different results than for our median and mode than I did for mean. Let's just see what happens, okay? So now I have my median up here. Let's see, is that very easy for you to see? Okay, it says a median, all you have to do to find it is order the responses and then find the middle response. So, as I said, using my survey results, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ones. There were no 2 answers. There were 1, 2, 3s Here's my 16 fours and my 7 fives. So I've got them in order there. In order to find the middle response, I just kind of crossed off one on each side until I got to the middle. If you had an odd number of people you surveyed, you would end up with the middle number. I ended up with an even number, so I had 2. So I have to find the average of those, which means I just add them up, add 4 plus 4. I divide it by the 2 that I added together, and I got 4 as my answer. Now, for me, that's pretty obvious for my median because they were both a 4. So obviously the average of 4 and 4 is 4, right? But if you end up with 2, you would go about that by finding their average, adding and dividing by 2, okay? So my statement now with that, using my median, so the median average answer was a 4. Okay, likely. It was likely that they would buy it according to my median, okay? So those still kind of going in the same pattern. Now I have my mode, okay? Mode is another form of average, and it is the number that appears the most, okay? So when I'm looking at my data here, this really doesn't take a whole lot of math. When I'm looking at either my bar graph or my tally here results, I can easily see that 16 people was the most to answer in one way, and that was likely. So what I wrote for mode is that likely, the number 4, occurs most at 16 times. So the mode average answer was 4, which was likely. If you have 2 different problems or 2 different answers, like let's say 3 and 4 had the same amount of responses, you would have 2 modes. You have 2 averages there, which sounds kind of funky, but you would make a statement like the mode average answer was 3 and 4. So not sure and likely or whatever those represent. Now, here's the point of doing all of that work was so we can make a statement, right? Okay, so for me, 4 happened to be the mean, median, and the mode. It happened to be all 3 of them. So here's my justification statement, my final statement. On average, because I use my mean, median, and mode, on average, people said it is likely they would buy my toothbrush. Likely is that word that represents 4. So on average, people said it is likely they would buy my toothbrush, okay? Now here's the thing. I have had people, or years when I asked these questions, surveyed people, that I ended up with a different mean, median, or mode. They weren't all the same one, okay? The really nice thing if that happens, if you have a different result, see how well can you see that? If you have a different result for a mean, median, or mode, like let's say my mean was 4 and my median was 5 and my mode was 4. So 4 and 5 were both considered my average. You are going to pick the average that makes your results look the best. So like if I found that 4 was my mean and my mode, but 5 was my median, then you betcha I am going to use 5. So instead of likely, I would put there that people said it is very likely, okay? That's okay because I have data that shows it is an average, even though it's not the same across all 3 of my averages. So you're going to pick the one that makes your data look your best, so you can make a statement like, on average, people said it is likely they would buy my toothbrush. There's your justification statement.